Welcome, everybody, to Tammy Tuesday, the podcast of life, love, and purpose. I'm happy you're here, and I'm so excited about my guest today, a super, super close dear friend, Adam Schiff, who is an amazing interior designer here locally. Adam, thank you so much for being here with me.
Of course. Happy to be here.
I'm happy you're here. We were talking about this before we started. We always have the best conversations in private.
Yeah.
And we always have since the day we met.
Sure.
Like when we met,
Don't make me cry. Don't make me tear up today.
Hey, I'm not responsible for that. But I remember the day we met. We were set up by a mutual friend, and they just said, you two need to know each other. And that very first coffee date that we had, it was like, oh my gosh, just like instant connection.
Totally.
Very cosmic.
Yeah.
And it just blossomed from there. And you have been, Adam, such a big part of my journey. You've been there while it's been happening. You've seen so much of it unfold. And I've seen the same with you.
Sure.
So it's been mutual, which is cool.
It's been amazing to watch.
Exactly. With each other.
Right.
And so that's why I felt so compelled to have you here, because that's what this whole thing is all about. It's about sharing these amazing people that I know and I have in my life. And I've watched them blossom. They've seen me blossom. And I just want to share that with everybody, with you specifically. So first, one of the first impressions that I had about you, which you were very clear about, was color. And you can see we're both very brightly colored today. I did strategically pick a bright color because you are a very colorful soul. And I've become more colorful for sure. And but I remember one of our first conversations, I think I was actually wearing a yellow dress the first time we met.
Funny.
And you were like, oh my gosh, that's refreshing. Somebody here's actually wearing color, right? Because you talk about your history a little bit. You grew up in California.
I grew up in Michigan,
but then you
lived in Chicago for about 3 years.
Yes.
And then lived in LA for 31 years.
Right. So you lived in LA for a long time. Yeah. And while you were in LA, we're going to get into your history, but while you were in LA, you had established a really successful interior design business.
Right.
And did very, very well, worked with very high profile people.
Yeah.
And then you said, it's time to make a shift.
Time to make a big change.
And then you moved to Arizona.
I did. And then COVID hit, which was crazy.
I know. Well, that was around the time when we met. It was not long after that. It was maybe a year after that.
Right. Yeah.
And when you started telling me your story about how you left LA and took this big leap of faith, because you left a very successful,
and all my friends and all my everything
your whole life.
Knew, I was like,
your whole life
to come to the desert.
Okay, I want to first ask you, what do you think made you do that?
I think just where I'm at in life was starting to change. And I think I always knew I didn't want to grow old in LA. Mm-hmm. And I think I got to a point where, I know actually exactly what happened. I got into a car accident. Mm-hmm. I'd never gotten into a car accident, totaled my car, and thought, I cannot do this anymore. Just the stress and the chaos. And I lived probably 1.5 miles from where I worked. It could take me an hour to get home.
Yeah.
And I thought, I just don't want to do this anymore. And my brother lived in Arizona, and he'd been literally daily saying, you need to come, you need to come, you need to get out of LA. Mm-hmm. And I thought, okay, I'm ready. And I did.
And you took the leap.
I took a huge leap, yeah.
So talk about the leap a little bit, because like you said, you leaped and then COVID hit and it got real crazy. Actually, you got really lucky that you left where you were. Oh. Because it was a million times worse where you were based on compared to here.
I couldn't even imagine. Because just all the people. And
what a gift you got. Timing.
Yeah, completely.
Total divine
it's
timing.
Crazy. Everything just kind of worked out impeccably. Like I couldn't have planned it better. And my parents lived in Arizona. They moved here like 25, 30 years ago. Mm-hmm. I hated to visit. I thought it was just brown desert, no water and hot. And so it was the last place I ever thought that I'd wind up.
Right.
And it was such a life changer for me.
Right.
I mean, my business is killing it. I've met amazing friends. And it was a whole do-over. Like, you were one of my first friends. And I hadn't made new friends in a gazillion years because all my friends been my friends forever in LA.
Right.
So it was a huge change.
Major restart.
Total restart. And I mean, in a weird way, COVID was a great thing for me.
Talk about that.
So I came here, I just knew my brother. Mm-hmm. I couldn't go out and network. Mm-hmm. I was very sketchy about being out in public and around people and didn't want to get sick. And all I could do was work LinkedIn. And I literally every day, that was like my job. I worked as many people as it would let me to connect with and kind of started meeting people that way. And then as things changed with COVID and, everything got lifted, I started being able to network, and I was the new kid in town and brought something completely different to the table than what's here. So
well, that's a huge piece too, because like I said, when I met you, I was like, oh my gosh, color, just color, so vibrant. And you just had this vibrant energy about you. And that's what you were bringing.
Sure.
I mean, all across the board.
Yeah.
So you're right. There was a huge lack of that type of design in people's lives and in their homes.
Right.
And so you were like, that's what I'm bringing. And that's what
Here I am.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So as you started to grow and evolve and started to network and meet people, what started to happen?
People were really receptive and really wanting what I was bringing to the table, which was shocking.
Why was it shocking?
Because I came here with a little bit of a chip on my shoulder, waiting for it to not be amazing or for people to not be receptive to my color and who I am and just all of that. And I was so pleasantly surprised, like shockingly surprised at how amazing everybody's been.
Yeah.
And just so nice and warm and kind and welcoming and wanting what I bring as a person as well as work.
Yeah.
Which has just been so fulfilling and just lovely.
Yeah. That's so cool.
Yeah.
And I love that I was one of your first friends. That makes me feel very special because I just think you're such a light, Adam. And I have always felt that way about you. And you have always been so comforting in watching my growth and seeing me evolve and me feeling safe to be able to share with you the things that were happening and how I've been evolving. And I'm just grateful for it.
Same.
I mean, I'm really grateful for it.
It's been kind of amazing. I mean, you are such a soul sister.
Totally.
On so many levels.
And
obviously, right from the start, it was so easy to just be. Mm-hmm. No pretense. Mm-mm. Throw it all on the table, good, bad, and in between. And I mean, what a lovely relationship to be able to have.
Right. Just trusting and honest.
Especially in this day and age where I feel like, especially coming from LA, where everybody's trying to pretend like everything's great and life is perfect. And we know it's not.
Right.
So to be able to have that kind of openness with you and that honesty, I mean, that's just a game changer.
It is. It's refreshing.
Yeah.
It's really refreshing.
And I never felt judged or like I just remember every time we hung out, I would leave feeling so high from you. Like just literally I was on a Tammy high.
You remember you saying that?
Yeah. Because it feels so good here to be able to be accepted like that and to be able to share our stuff, good, bad, and in between.
Right.
Because I mean, we live in such a twisted world right now, and things are not easy for a lot of people. And to have that kind of support and to have that openness it's beautiful.
It is. It is.
And you're gonna make me tear up now.
Well, I have already been feeling that, but I want to back up because as we were starting to get to know each other and we would hang out and talk and share, you would share your history and your past with me, and you would talk about your mom. And as I was I was having new mystical experiences and I was seeing things in a totally different way and I was sharing them with you. And then you would start to share with me some of the things that you were experiencing. And it was cool because it was just this open dialogue of just things that were happening. And it was, again, very safe and we kind of fed on each other about it. And I remember you when you would tell me about your mom, because I want to talk about your mom because she's such a huge piece of your life.
Sure.
And I want to talk about her because you have a really deep connection, even though she's not here in this plane with us anymore, but you're still very much connected to her.
Oh,
and as you explained your relationship with her, it started to even get stronger.
Sure.
And I want to talk about it because I think it's really, really cool. So when you were young, explain sort of your upbringing and what your home was like and your family and the dynamics, because there's a lot to that, I think.
It's interesting as I'm getting older and I'm looking back on that. I'm seeing things that I wasn't even in touch with. So my mom got diagnosed with cancer when I was about 3 or 4, which is, such a young age to have that to deal with. And as I'm getting older, I realized how not safe I felt because of that, thinking I was going to lose her at any point. Like, I remember being a child looking out the front door, my mom went to the hospital and thinking she's not coming home. And what a thing for a child to experience.
Oh, yeah.
But on the flip side, my parents were so loving with each other and with me and my brother, and really cared and supported and just adored us. So it was like I scored, but that made it even more tough because,
More to lose.
Yeah. I mean, I was very lucky because she had cancer for about 34 years, which is amazing that she lived that long.
I know.
And the fact that I even got that much time with her. But on the flip side, I feel like, she got taken so soon. Like,
Right.
I wish, I know she's around and watching, but to be able to take her to like a project and show her, like, because they were always trying to get me to Arizona, and to see that I'm here and I'm thriving and I'm having a great relationship with my brother, and, that would make them so happy. So to experience that at such a young age and to have that kind of love, I was really, really lucky. And it's interesting because I thought everybody had that. And I remember getting older, and it seemed like everybody's parents were divorced but mine. And it was very hard to wrap my head around that.
Yeah, super unique.
Everybody had 2 households. And I went home to mine, and, we said I loved you and kissed each other goodnight every night. And even as an adult, I would say I love you when we hung up the phone. And
Right.
I remember as an adult hanging out with my mother and her just pinching me because she just loved me so much she just couldn't get enough of me. And how lucky to be able to have that.
Yeah. What a gift.
Yeah, oh, beyond.
So when she was gone, obviously that was a huge, like you said, huge loss for all of you.
Oh, God, yes.
For all of you. But I remember you talking about when you were at her funeral, you were seeing some things that you were like,
and we've talked about this. I used to be a very black and white kind of guy. If I couldn't see it, I couldn't believe it.
Right.
I didn't believe in reincarnation. My brain didn't go to those places. And I started having lots of experiences. I used to have a Jeep, and I remember driving around LA with the top off and being in the hills and smelling my mother's perfume, which, like, just telling you right now, I have chills because it was so, like, what?
yeah.
And as I've gotten older and more open to it, I talk to her every day. I hear her respond in my head. I hear her voice.
Yeah.
And it's wild to me. And I feel like as I've gotten older, I've stopped questioning it all.
Yep.
And just kind of just letting it be, because she pops up all the time. It's wild to me.
Yeah.
Especially to, go my whole life not believing that stuff or not being open to it.
Right. What do you think shifted in you that made you suddenly realize that
You were a huge part of that. You were definitely a huge part of that. I feel like that whole black and white was me controlling. And that was my safety.
Yeah.
And it was also, I guess it was easier for me to digest and understand, because I remember being younger and thinking, if there was a God, how could they allow this to happen?
Right.
That my mother could get taken, or kids could get hurt, or animals, or things like that.
Right.
And so I just wasn't open to it.
Yeah. And then when these things started happening, like you'd smell her perfume, or you'd see things, or maybe hear things, or get little nudges, how did that continue to evolve? Because you've come, just even since I've known you, you've come a very long way into what you experience now.
Oh, my God. And it's crazy because I experience it daily now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's, just on so many weird levels. Like, sometimes I see out of the side of my eye her there, or I feel her presence, or I think as I started opening up, it opened everything up.
You open up floodgates, and now here it is.
Completely.
Yeah.
And it's still hard for me to comprehend because it's so tangible now where I didn't even go down that road before.
Yeah. And now you're like fully open.
Fully open.
Well, and Adam, it's changed your life so much on so many levels.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, so many levels. Like, not just are you experiencing that, but you're also making big shifts in your life,
Sure.
your walking daily life that are all about you and your self-love and
Of course.
loving yourself.
Right.
I mean, deeply.
It's amazing. I've been here about 5 years, but I feel like I lost my first couple because of COVID. But just in the past 3, on every single level, you're right. The self-love has changed, my acceptance of life and the world. And just, I feel like I'm at peace on such a level that I never even knew existed. And I thought that I was so in touch. And so like I remember being younger and thinking, oh, I've got this. Like I know what's going on.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I had no idea.
What you were missing.
Yes, I didn't know that life could be this way. Mm-hmm. Passion and just everything is just so much. It's so different now.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
And I'm taking notice of everything, whether it's a bird flying in the yard or, I'm always paying attention to hummingbirds when I see that because that makes me think of you. Mm-hmm. But those things all over the place. And I feel like my interactions with people have changed on a huge level as well.
How so? What have you what's the biggest thing you've noticed?
I feel like things are much more intimate. Mm-hmm. And I think people are getting from me that feeling. I don't even know how to word it. Mm-hmm. My passion is kind of infectious, and people tell me that and respond to that.
Yeah.
And I just had a Zoom call with potential clients, and the lady was like, "Wow!" Like
she was feeling off your vibes.
She was, and she was like, "I love what you do, but I love you, and I want to work with you." That's and so I thought, "Oh, what a nice thing to like be able to touch people and talk about a legacy."
Yeah.
Like I care about that. Mm-hmm. I want to make a difference in this world, and I want to affect people and touch people and bring goodness.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh. And not even just your natural, ability to, like you said, now affect people in that way and have them gravitate to you. The magnetism that's happened with you has been really cool to watch. I mean, you really have just lit it up and suddenly it's coming right at you. I mean, it's coming to you.
It's coming to me.
You are not going to it. It is coming to you.
No.
And I've seen it with you. And it's crazy because it's like magic. Isn't it amazing?
It really is. I mean, I had my biggest work year last year.
Yeah.
Which like substantially blew every year out of the water last year. And I'm still kind of newish. I'm still meeting people and finding my way here. And it's mind blowing to sit back and be like, wow.
And yet here it is. And it keeps showing up, right? More and more and more.
It shows up. I remember certain points in my life thinking like, I want this to happen, or like having a want for things. Whereas now I think I'm so grateful for all of the things. I'm paying attention to how they're coming at me from every angle. I mean, there's days that I'm just like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
And it's just me being me.
Right.
So many people, again, LA can be very manipulative and everyone's out for themselves. And it's a very aggressive way of living that doesn't suit me where I'm at now. Mm-hmm. And to live a calm kind of life is really special.
Yeah, I know. It changes everything.
It changes everything.
I mean, it changes everything.
Yeah. I mean, my sleep is different. Everything I do is so different.
Talk about some of the things that have changed recently, because you've had some major changes recently. I mean, relationships, family relationships.
Oh, big time.
You've had some
Quit
health
smoking.
changes. I mean, you stopped smoking.
That was a huge thing. I mean, I was a heavy duty smoker since I was 16. Wow. I'm 57. And I tried everything, the patch, the gum, hypnotherapy, acupuncture, literally everything. And nothing was working. And I think because of where I'm at now in life and I'm valuing my life, I realized either cancer was going to hit me, COPD was going to hit me, I was going to have to schlep around an oxygen tank, and all of those things I could not have in my life now. And I was in therapy, and I was talking to my therapist about it, and she said, well, what are you scared of? And I said, I don't know. It's what I know. This is what I've done. And she said, pick a date. And I started sweating. Like, I got really uncomfortable.
You're like, oh boy, you're putting me to a decision now.
Totally. And I thought, okay, well, I had this many cigarettes left. Like, I had bought a cart. I just bought a carton. And I thought, okay, so this will last me till this day. Okay. I picked a week. And I went out and I got the patches, and I thought I was geared myself up for it. And the day before my quit date, I still had some, and I couldn't just throw them out. So I just smoked the hell out of them. And
one last hoorah.
I did. And I woke up the next day, slapped on the patch, and I was ready to go. And it was shocking to me how easy it was, because I expected it to be a nightmare. I thought I was going to be a mess. And I was on the patch for like 3 or 4 days. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to start lessening it to see, because nicotine, you've got the two addictions, the nicotine and the habit. And I stopped the patch, and I haven't gone back. And it's been 23 days. Dang. There's not been one moment that I thought, I've got to get cigarettes. Like, I hadn't even thought. There's been times where I had finished eating and naturally thought.
Craved that.
Not even craved it. It was just more of the habit. Yeah. Like, I was sitting outside and I was talking on the phone, and I went to reach for the pack of cigarettes that wasn't there.
Oh, wow.
But it wasn't like something that I needed. It was more just, it was what I was used to.
Right. Habitual.
Yeah, completely. It's been shocking to me. And everybody that knows me is shocked too, because everybody knew how much I smoked.
Yeah.
Like, it was so bad. And I've talked to other people that have tried to quit and heard how bad it's been on them.
Well, it's interesting too, because even you leading up to it, you were anticipating real discomfort.
For sure.
And that didn't even happen.
None of it happened.
I mean, that's big, because honestly, the energy you're putting out usually is what you get back.
Sure.
And you anticipate, and you build it up in your mind, and suddenly that's what comes through. But that didn't even happen.
None of it happened.
That just tells you with how much alignment you are in right now.
Well, and how much inner strength we have.
Exactly.
When we want something, and I feel like as I'm getting older, I'm equating things differently. Like, I equated this seriously with my health and realized I didn't want to die. Mm-hmm. And I was doing that to myself, that was eventually what was going to happen if I didn't fix it. And that became so strong in me that it wasn't even an option, which is amazing.
It is amazing. Well, again, you chose you.
Yeah.
You said, no, I'm not choosing that. I'm choosing me.
Sure. And I'll think about it like, oh my God, I'm a non-smoker.
Well, when I hugged you today, I was like, you're like, I don't smell. I was like, I know.
It's completely.
It's awesome.
It's amazing. Thank God my car is not smelling anymore, because I would smoke in the car.
Yeah.
And it was disgusting the first week. And now I'm unfortunately one of those smokers. I can't be around it.
Totally.
Like, I was out somewhere and someone was smoking and I smelled it and I thought, oh my God, that was me.
Really?
And it was so disgusting.
Really?
Yeah.
It was repulsing at that point.
It just really grossed me out. And, I looked, because that was me. And how gross.
Well, you see it all totally differently now.
It's
totally new
different.
experience. You're experiencing that whole thing totally different. It really, because it was never you. And you just were gravitating to that, and now you realize that it's no longer you.
Sure.
And you don't
For
need
whatever reason, that was a crutch that I latched onto. I mean, when I started smoking, everybody was smoking back then.
Right.
That was so long ago.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And
it wasn't
everybody
taboo
around
like
me-
it is today.
No. And everybody around me smoked, so it just made sense that I picked it up.
Right.
But
It was
I'm
a social
so,
thing when it starts,
sure.
and then all of a sudden it becomes a habit, and you're addicted
course.
to the drug and all the things.
right. But I'm so grateful. I mean, wow.
I'm so happy for you.
Thank
I mean, I
you.
really am so happy for you because you can tell you just feel liberated.
And it's like it shouldn't have been this easy.
Of course, it should have.
I mean, I guess I don't know anyone that it's been this way for, but it's where I was at in life. Because like I said, I've tried and it was never that way.
That's what I'm saying. That should show you where you are at.
Sure.
That's
I
it.
just found, literally, I just found yesterday some Chantix that I had, which was a pill, quit smoking. And I had done the first 4 days and then I must have given up.
Oh, from the past, from before, from another time.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And I thought, that's so interesting.
Yeah.
But it just shows you the mind and your will. And, you know, when you have another thing that's changed drastically for me is my perspective.
That's huge.
And when you look at things and you come from a grateful place, it's so different.
It is.
And it really does affect me on every single level. I'm paying attention in a different way than I ever did.
How so?
I'm just aware, like even interactions with people. Like I remember being younger and getting frustrated with people if it was like I was speaking a different language. And now I understand everyone's where they're at. And that might not be in sync with me, and that's okay. That's their lesson to learn or
Their journey.
yeah, completely. And it's okay if it doesn't match with mine.
Right.
And I actually have so much fun on my own now.
You've said that a lot. I love that.
That like if I'm home with my dog, I'm totally okay. Like I remember being younger and I had to go out every Friday and Saturday.
Right.
Now I don't. I am so happy in my robe with my pups and life is good. And I don't feel like I'm missing anything.
That's the best.
Right?
Yes.
And I'm finding I'm giving myself fulfillment. It's all internal versus external.
Yes.
And I feel like a lot of my life was that external.
For so many
when I
people,
was
for so
younger.
many of us,
Sure,
we do that.
course. When you don't know better, you don't know.
Right. Exactly.
And it's interesting how it happened because it wasn't like I thought, oh, I'm going to fix this or change this. It was a progression.
It evolved.
Yes. I mean, that accident, which I could have died in, it just lined me up to move. Moving here changed. It's like everything. I don't know.
I want to ask you something. So you have expressed to me before that you feel like when you do leave this world, that it will be with a car accident.
I have.
Do you still feel that way?
No, actually. Wow. I hadn't even thought of that.
Really?
Yes. I think, wow. I haven't thought about this at all.
I didn't know that you had a car accident before you came here. I don't think
That's what led
I don't
me
think you've
here.
ever told me that.
Oh,
If you
interesting.
did, I had forgotten.
That's what led me here.
I didn't know that. That's why I was prompted to ask you that because I remember at one point you told me, oh, I know that when I go, it's going to be in a car accident. And I thought, wow. So whenever we're together and we leave each other, I like, are you home?
Right. That's
But
funny.
that's why I really was like, I wonder if he still feels that way, and you don't.
I don't. And I hadn't even thought about it.
That's interesting, isn't it?
It is interesting. I've never been scared of death. I've never had an issue with that. I feel like I've lived a really amazing life, but now I'm living an even more amazing life. And wow, I'm going to have to think about that because that hasn't crossed my mind at all.
That's amazing.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Again, that's just more awareness.
Sure.
More awareness.
Yeah.
So and I remember you also said that you had been seeking out therapy, and that's been very helpful to you. I think therapy is beautiful
Amazing.
for everybody.
For sure.
I have always felt that way. So talk about that journey, because I think that has really opened you up to your own awarenesses and your growth and where you are now and where you're still going.
For sure.
So talk about that a little bit, because I think there's a lot to that and your openness to receiving that type of help.
Sure. So I obviously work for myself, which is very different than having a 9-to-5 and having stability. And it's a whole different mentality because there's nothing that's set in stone. There's nothing that's consistent.
It's not secure.
No, it's not at all. And I had such an amazing year last year. I mean, I did 12 new builds, a couple remodels. Like, it was insane.
Wow.
I remember being younger and thinking, if I did one new build a year, I'd be so good. And here
now
I had a
look at you.
ton.
Yeah.
And I started getting nervous because the year didn't start off like that. And I was so spoiled by that. And then I started getting worried. And I remember I woke up sweating, panicked one day. And then it happened a second day. And then it had the third day. And I thought, if this is happening when I'm waking up, my brain, stuff's going on in my brain while I'm sleeping.
Right.
That's really scary. I can't live this way. And I immediately got myself into therapy. I really lucked out, found a wonderful woman.
That's a good blessing.
Oh my God. And she's...
Well, but that's no accident either.
No.
You were ready to receive that person, and that's when they
Completely.
came. That's how it worked.
I mean, I look at, there's so many people that they live that way. That becomes their existence, living in that kind of fear and panic. And I just knew that was not acceptable. I did not want to live that way.
Yeah.
And through that, and again, that want and desire, she's helped me, understand what that was,
Right.
which was just simple fear and feeling not in control. Now I realize how little I am in control.
Right.
And-
That awareness is huge.
Sure. Which takes the fear away. I mean, that fear, it's deadly. And the fear can turn into everything. That can bring about cancer. That can,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that can really do a number on people.
Sure.
And again, this world is so crazy right now. I think a lot of people are living in that kind of fear. And for whatever reason, don't seek help or don't even know that there's another option.
Right.
So to go through that and feel the change immediately, because
Yeah.
it was it was literally this 3 days I got into therapy and that stopped happening.
Well, you were ready.
I was so ready.
You were ready.
Yeah.
And you knew it.
I totally knew it.
That was your soul going, hey,
For sure.
you're ready. Let's do this. And
Yeah.
you're like, okay. And then you did it. You took the step.
Right.
And now look what's happened.
Sure.
And what keeps happening.
And it is. It's like a consistent thing.
Flow. You're in flow.
Totally in flow. I'm vibing.
Totally. It's a real thing.
It's completely, but it all goes back to how we think about things and how we process things. And it's easy to fall into a negative mind space. I've never been a negative kind of guy. I was scared. I was nervous.
Yeah. Fear.
Yeah. And I mean, the reality of it, I had savings. I was going to be okay.
You really were fine.
I was totally
You were
fine.
feeding your brain toxin.
Yeah, completely. I mean, it was funny. Too,
I remember even when you and I were talking about it, I was like, what are you worried about? And you're like, but I just got to make sure. And I'm like,
and taxes were coming up.
Right,
And,
I remember that
and I had
conversation.
been socking away tons of money because I was preparing.
I remember you telling me all this. I
That
was
whole
like,
control
whoa.
side, I wanted to be prepared because I don't like surprises like that.
Yeah.
And it wound up being the complete opposite, which then I had some extra.
And all of a sudden you're like, oh, no, I have a nice little nest egg.
Right?
Yeah.
Completely.
Yeah.
But, I don't know if it's a natural inclination to go to that place or what, but it's through that, it's really helped me change my whole outlook and my whole thought process.
Well,
is
like you
different.
said, perspective is the word. And
For sure.
I was just having a conversation today, in fact, with a very close family member, and they asked me, they said, I need some help. And I said, what can I help you with? And they said, well, I'm in, how do I get over this feeling of dread? I have some dread. Wow. And the only thing I could share was how I had been, because for me, especially with certain people, it's easier for them to hear it if I can relate it to myself.
Sure.
And how I've implemented it with myself and my own practices and things that I do that have helped me. And so I started to share stories of some of the things and practices that I've been doing that helped me move through feelings like dread, fear, anxiety, stress, all the things that bog us down.
Sure.
And it's having consistency and practice of remembering the right now. And that, like you were saying, you were anticipating this tax bill and you were anticipating. And we tend to, as people, live in our future based on our past.
Sure.
And so it creates this pattern of fear and stress because we're basing what we think is coming on what's already happened. And neither one of those are realities. No. They're not real. Neither one of them are real.
Sure.
So it's completely, we self-fabricate our existence and we live in this turmoil. And like you said, what happens is our bodies then manifest from these stress and these things that we're producing physically into our bodies, and they become cancers and life-threatening diseases or ailments or addictions or whatever they are in our physical bodies. And it creates a whole new heap of problems for us on a physical side. So then we've got to get over and figure out how we're going to heal that. So if we can start to live in the awareness around what's right now and what really is the only thing that's relevant.
Right, of course.
It makes it so when those things do come up, because we all have stresses that we face. We live in an environment where outside things are going to continue to come at us constantly. But it's the perspective shift.
And how we handle it.
Yes. And the only thing we have control, air quotes, of is how we respond to it.
Sure.
And how we feel about it. Because those things are going to keep coming.
No.
They're never going to stop.
Absolutely.
They're never going to stop. The trains are going to keep crashing into us. And, you know, someone's going to say something or a past trauma is going to arise. All the things are going to continue to keep coming. The difference is, how am I equipping myself to respond to that? Because that's the only thing I have control over.
Well, and I think trauma is a really important word because I feel like a lot of people, I feel like everyone's had trauma.
Of course.
Most people have not dealt with it or are not dealing with it. Or like I wasn't even in touch with it.
You didn't even know it was real for you.
I didn't realize that my mother having cancer when I was a kid left me feeling unsafe because my mom was trying to take care of herself. My dad was trying to take care of her. They were loving me and did as best as they could.
Of course.
But I didn't realize
how much it was affecting you.
Yes, completely.
Fear.
Yeah. It all goes back to that, for me at least.
Yeah.
And you're right. All that stuff's going to keep happening, but it's the perspective. It's taking it for me. I take a deep breath and it's like, come on, Adam.
What's real?
Yeah, and I'm learning from all of this to now I know better. Literally nothing is the end of the world except for death.
Well, and even that is honestly just a progression.
Right. If it is, great.
That's what I believe. It's a progression.
No,
it's a graduation. It's just another phase. You're just changing form.
Sure.
But it is really interesting. And the advice that I had given to this family member also was, what I've noticed in myself is that when those things hit me, the outside environment that hits me, they affect me much less now.
For sure.
They still affect me. I'm still human. I'm still going to respond.
Of course.
But my response time and how I can get past what hurts or the pain or the fear, whatever it invokes in me, I can now move through that piece so much faster.
What a gift.
It is. It's an amazing gift.
Sure.
And honestly, it comes down to my awareness of that happening. So it happens more and more. It's like a snowball effect, right? The more we see that and we understand that that's how it works, the easier it gets to continue to do that, and you do more of it.
Sure.
Right?
Well, I mean, the brain is a really amazing thing. That was another thing that I never was even in touch with.
Right.
And I don't think I ever thought about how we can reteach the brain.
Yes.
Because there's so many, our responses are learned. There's so much that becomes our natural way of being when it doesn't have to.
No.
Now I'm learning how to retrain myself. Yeah, totally reprogram. And it's all completely different.
I know.
I don't panic. I don't go into that mode anymore.
Right.
I'm, like you said, I'm human and things are certainly going to happen, but my response is totally different.
Right.
And I'm so grateful for that.
Yes. Well, and the awareness and the gratitude towards that, when you're living in gratitude, one of the biggest gifts of gratitude is when you're living in gratitude, you're living in a space of everything is okay.
Sure.
Because you have forgiven something. You're grateful for something that's already happened, even if nothing's really happened. You're grateful for that. So you're in turn really manifesting what it is that you're grateful for.
Sure.
If you're grateful, you're just manifesting more of what you're grateful for.
Right.
Right? So you're living in that. Now you're living in a future that's based on right now.
Sure.
I mean, that elevated feeling. There's a book that I'm reading, and I've been whatever book I'm reading at any given time, of course, I then implement the practices into my life. The one that I'm reading right now is Becoming Supernatural. It's by Dr. Joe Dispenza. Great book. I've mentioned it a couple times. And speaking of the brain, he talks specifically about reprogramming your brain and your neurocortex and how you actually change the synapses and your responses, which truly become a new physical thing in your body. So if you think you can do that in your body, you can do that everywhere else too.
Of course.
So again, it's living in that, you're living in a future that's based on right now. There's no attachment to that. It's only now.
In therapy, have been doing EMDR.
Mm-hmm. We talked about
which
that. I remember.
I never even
Didn't know what it was.
I didn't know anything about it. Mm-hmm. And when she brought it up, I consciously didn't research it because I wanted to go into it
open-minded.
Totally open-minded.
Yeah.
Whoa, what a game changer that's been, because that's also part of reprogramming.
Totally.
And it's just unbelievable. I mean, that's where I realized I had trauma that I didn't even know.
Right.
And that's been a huge game changer for me.
Yeah, it's incredible how powerful our mind is.
It really
I mean, really.
Yeah.
How powerful.
Sure.
I mean, it's incredible, actually.
Well, and I mean, at the end of the day, we can choose to be miserable and negative, or we can choose to just be and see the joy and appreciate the happiness. I mean, I feel like it takes so much more work to be negative and get caught up in that versus just taking a deep breath and just being.
Right. I know. Well, and you talked about something earlier too, and this is really true of everything in your life when you start to live that way, is even the relationships, like as all of us, including you and me, have evolved, people have come into our lives and they've left our lives for different reasons. And you've realized that, like you said, everybody's on their own path. The difference is your perspective of how you're viewing that.
Sure.
So that's again, something outside of you, which we don't have any control over. So you can view it and you can either be judgmental or pissed off or whatever that, triggers you to think, well, that person, whatever.
Of course.
It's the perspective shift of, that person, that has nothing to do with me.
No.
And that's okay. If we're not meant to vibe right now, then we're not meant to vibe right now. I bless and forgive, bless and release.
And there doesn't have to be a blame.
No.
Which I feel like a lot of people get caught up in
Yes.
that. And it's probably self-preservation. Like, I want to feel better about myself.
Right.
But when you get to a point where you don't need that, what a relief. And what a
relief is the word.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just a dark cloud is lifted. And,
Yes.
I mean, it's amazing because people do come and go. And some people, you make something really beautiful like we have out of the friendship. And some people don't, and that's okay.
Right.
You wish them well, and, life continues.
Exactly. And it continues for them and it continues for you.
For sure.
And there doesn't need to be any resentment or anger or judgment. It's just, it's what it is.
Well, I don't need or have time for any of the negative stuff anymore. I see how that doesn't serve me in the least. And I appreciate being light and mellow and easy and working on myself versus pointing out everybody else.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is a lovely thing.
It is a lovely thing. Well, that's really all there is.
Yeah.
All you can do.
Right?
I mean, you can do it. You think you're doing something out there, but you're not.
I mean,
You're really not.
I think I thought I was helping them in some weird way by pointing it out and showing them how they could be different. But I'm a perfect example. Until I was ready to quit smoking or to do whatever, it wouldn't have happened.
No.
And everybody in my life has been hounding me to quit smoking, and they knew better, and they were coming from a good place.
Yeah.
I wasn't there.
No.
As soon as I got there, it's been amazing.
That was the game changer.
Right.
Because you chose you.
Well, that's what this whole thing, literally since that accident, because when I was in LA, I got to the point where I was just kind of existing there. Everything became a hassle, so I stopped doing stuff. And my purpose wasn't there.
You weren't fulfilled.
No. And
did it feel like something was missing, or were you just bored? What was the feeling?
I don't know that I could pinpoint it. Now I think that I just was not feeling fulfilled. And it was a combination of just being in LA and being in a big city that was chaotic,
A lot of energy there.
A lot of energy and a lot of negative.
A lot of all types of energy.
I mean, just the traffic and the chaos, and that alone was enough. I was wasting 2 hours a day getting home and going to work.
Right. And that's the norm there for
Oh,
everyone.
yeah.
Everyone's in that.
Yeah. And what a waste of time and energy. And, but I can now see the process of how things have gotten to me where I am today.
Right.
And wow.
Well, so talk about your relationships, like your relationship with your brother. That was very tumultuous at one point.
It was very tumultuous.
And I want to talk about that because that's a huge, it's all about everything we're talking about.
Sure.
Perspective changes and how there's been healing happened now.
Right.
So talk about that journey because that's a big one for you.
So we basically we stopped talking because of politics. We were coming from totally different sides. I was taking it very personal that he wasn't understanding and seeing where I was coming from. And I couldn't take it. So I put a pause. And we paused for like 4 years, which was crazy. I mean,
and you're all you've got. Your parents are both gone. It's just you and him.
It's just me and him. We have no other siblings. And, we used to go to Europe and travel and take big trips together. And we've always been completely opposite, but we managed to
see past it.
And this, I could not see past.
And it was, you think it was totally you?
I think it was me. I'm the one who put my foot down and said, I can't do this anymore.
Right.
It was both of us kind of always fighting and arguing. And it was just like, I don't want to do this. No. And it's interesting because I now see, it basically came full circle where I realized, like, first of all, I can't change him. Second of all, it doesn't matter if he understands or sees where I'm coming from. I have to have my own boundaries. He's still my brother. I will always love him, and I know he'll always love me. I just didn't want that heaviness over me anymore. Like, I remember running into him, and us both kind of giving the head nod, but not talking to each other. And
wow. Wow.
That was pretty bad.
It's big.
Yeah. And this is a teeny city, so chances are,
yeah.
And I realized I just didn't want that. And so I reached out to him and I said, let's go to lunch. And we did. And it was, of course, like we had seen each other the day before. But I see how I needed that space away to take my power back, to get into my own self. It was necessary. And I don't regret it. I'm so grateful we come full circle. We still have those moments, but I handle them and deal with them completely differently. I don't even engage. There's just no reason.
Right.
I don't need to try to change his mind.
Right. Well, and again, it's outside of you anyway.
Of course. Well, and also I accept him.
Right. Even though you don't agree.
No. And that's a huge release.
That is one of our biggest problems in society today.
For sure.
People cannot be forgiving of, you don't even need to forgive. They can't be accepting of letting people be where they are.
Right. Completely.
There's no acceptance of it.
No. And I mean, I want people to accept me. So it was something I had to learn. But wow, like taking my power back and just seeing it from a different perspective changed everything.
Wow.
Yeah.
Are you guys able to talk on a deep level, spiritually or emotionally?
We are, to a point. He doesn't like to go down those roads. I think his trauma has led him to a whole different place. I think he still holds on to his things and can be very controlling with it. And that's his safety. That's his security. That's his journey.
Right.
Some things we can. I mean, we had really incredible parents. So we have that commonality and we both miss them terribly. And, those kind of things come up all the time.
Right. Yeah. Because you guys can share that.
Sure.
And there's a bond there.
Right.
Around it.
But getting to the place of where I'm at now with it is just wild.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just
like I said, it's a relief. It's very freeing.
It's a huge relief. Just everything. The past 3 years is just, I'm like a different person. It's crazy.
I know. That's how I feel.
And I didn't even know that this could exist.
Right. I know.
Like, it's wild to
It
me.
is wild. It is
I'll
wild.
catch myself sometimes giggling over just being happy. Like,
I love it.
yeah. And I'm sure people see me driving and think I've lost my mind, but I do. And I make up songs sometimes. Like, I just have I'm so in such a good place, and it just feels good and just light, and it's amazing.
That is so cool. I love it.
It's a great place to be.
It is a great
It's
place to
really
be.
exhilarating.
Well, and it
even
breeds
just-
more of it.
Yeah, for sure. And even just talking about it.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. Well, it's funny because even just talking about it and you walking around the world like that, those vibes are going out.
For sure.
I mean, they're affecting people.
For sure.
They really are. It's you can't not.
Right.
Because everything's energy. So you're just putting that energy out there.
And I see it. Like, I'm the type of person that I'll talk to the people at the checkout counter, and I talk to the people at the bank, and I see just saying, "How's your day?"
Yeah.
Like, I was just at the bank, and this lady, she looked like she was having a terrible day. And I was like, "How's it going?" And she looked at me just so almost in shock that someone
You
even
actually cared.
stopped. Yes.
Took the time to ask her.
And it's such a simple thing
I
that
know.
I feel like if
it's
everybody
incredible
was
how
just,
much it's missed.
yes, if we all were just a little bit nicer to each other. And,
Well, and just actually show some compassion,
sure.
right?
And I get it. Everyone gets caught up, but we need to stop getting so caught up. Like, I feel like that's what's holding everybody back is we're getting caught up in being right or being the best or being the wealthiest or all those things. Yeah.
They aren't real.
No.
Well, it's like one thing that is true of the reason you start interacting like that with people is because you're treating yourself that way.
Of course.
You're loving yourself. And so it's making you naturally want to love others. That's what's so crazy about the whole thing is the second you say yes to you and you say, oh, I'm actually worthy of this and I am worthy of love and I am love and you have all these aha awarenesses about yourself and how incredible you are.
Sure.
It naturally overflows onto your interactions with people.
Of course.
And people pick up on it and they're like looking at you like, what? Right. Why are you talking to me?
For sure.
Because they're like, nobody else does that, but you can't help it. You want to.
And it's so simple and it's so easy. I mean, I feel like I walk into a place like this.
I know.
It's already, there's something.
Oh, totally. Yeah. I mean, you can't miss it.
No. And people, I see, it's funny because my brother we've been out before and he loves to walk behind me because he loves to watch how people react to me. And he just thinks it's the funniest thing because people do. I mean,
I know.
I was just at, it wasn't just, but I was at ASU seeing a play and there's like 3,000 people in there. There was maybe 2 other people wearing color. Like I looked around in this whole huge place.
Isn't that interesting?
It is very interesting.
Well, and you are very aware of it because you actually gravitate to color.
I do. I mean,
you always
this
have.
is how I design. This is how I live.
Everything's
this
very
is
colorful.
very much my mother.
Yeah. Oh,
she
yeah.
was
Okay.
Totally that way. I got it from her.
Okay.
And I do it for me because it makes me happy.
Right.
It's not about anybody else.
Right.
But it's just so interesting, the response. Because I'll get like meatheads that are just, they come up to me and they're like, oh my God, I love those pants. Or like, things that I wouldn't even
Never
expect.
Yeah.
No, I'm sure I told you my cowboy story when I first moved here, but I was here like 3 weeks. And like I said, I had a chip on my shoulder. I was waiting for people to mess with me. And this rough, like 6'4" cowboy is walking towards me with the hat and the gun. And he's eyeballing me and I'm sweating and I'm thinking, please don't hit me. Please don't hit me. And he gets like this close and he's like, I might have to take those pants. And while I'm at it, I might have to take the shoes. And I thought, oh my God, I can live here. I love it here. And it's been that constantly.
Well, I have news for you, Adam. The reason it's like that for you is because that's what you're putting out. Because there's plenty of not that around.
I'm sure.
And I'm not trying to poo-poo anything. All I'm saying is you pull in what you're putting out and you've been putting that out and that's what you're getting back.
I just wouldn't have expected it.
Right.
And it was so surprising because this guy couldn't have been more opposite of me.
Right. It was unexpected.
Yes. I mean, he was rough. He was really
rough. Please don't bother me.
Seriously. I mean, the way he was looking at me, I thought he was going to punch me or something.
Oh my gosh.
And it couldn't have been the more opposite. And it's funny because those things are how I got the chip off my shoulder because people really showed me. I mean, I'll go out in Old Town and everybody wants to say hi.
I know.
And it's amazing. What a nice thing.
Oh, yes, that is soul filling because you know that you're having an impact
Sure.
because you're being you.
Right.
Just by being you,
Right.
you're having an impact.
Yeah.
That's the best part about it. Because you're not doing it for them. You're just doing it because that's just you.
I look in the mirror and it makes me happy.
Yeah. You also have a really special relationship with your cousin, Alicia, and she's amazing. I've met her. I need more of her.
She's pretty spectacular.
Talk about that relationship because I think that's really awesome. I have a cousin relationship like that too, so I can relate. And I just share a little bit about that.
So it's interesting because we look like we're twins.
You do. You look like siblings
Everybody
for sure.
thinks we're twins. We very much have had a similar journey. We think very much alike. We talk literally 12 times a day, and our conversations are very much like ours. It's all about the soulful level and making a difference in this world and being our best. And she's another one that I can talk about anything with.
Right.
And she's known me my whole life.
Yeah.
Like she's growing up, our families were all very close. We did all the holidays. I'm Jewish, and we did Shabbat dinner every Friday, and everybody came over. And she's seen me literally through everything.
Yeah.
And it's just such a kind relationship to be.
It's very clear. There's a lot of love there when you guys are together.
God, yes,
a lot of love.
Yeah. And it's funny because I can look back on certain points of life where I really held her up on a silver platter and didn't give her room to be human.
That's interesting.
And as we've gotten older and I've seen those moments of humanity with her, because that's a lot of pressure to put on somebody.
It is a lot of pressure.
Because nobody's perfect.
No,
And,
we are all human.
I think I idolizing her wasn't fair.
Right. That's very observant of you.
And to switch places throughout our lives as we're going through different things and to be able to feed off of each other.
When did you realize that you had her up on a pedestal?
I was definitely later in life. I'd say probably my 30s, 40s.
And what changed? What made you say, oh
I saw her going
real
through
things,
stuff. Yeah.
real things, adversities and challenges.
Absolutely. And I like I said, to give her the space to be human.
Right.
When I had always looked at her in a different way.
Oh, this affects you like that?
Right.
She's like, well, yeah.
And it made our relationship so much stronger and better.
Wow.
Because
that's powerful.
It's very powerful. I mean,
that's a lot of your closeness.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Vulnerability.
Well, and I think to be able to, vulnerability is a great word, to be able to feel safe, to be that way.
Yeah.
Because nothing's perfect.
No.
And we all have our stuff. But to be able to feel safe enough to talk about it like we do, or like even just how we are here. And who knows who's going to hear this.
Exactly.
But to be able to feel comfortable to talk about that stuff, like hopefully somebody will hear this and be like, oh, I get it.
Yeah.
And maybe this will affect their lives in a different way. I feel like so many people spend so much time trying to be perfect.
Yes.
What kind of crazy pressure is that?
Well, it's not realistic.
It's not realistic at all. And I think that just sets us up for more failure.
Yes, and more pain.
And pain. And because nobody can live up to that. It's not possible.
No, it's not.
But when we give ourselves the space to be imperfect, wow.
Well, when we give ourselves space to be imperfect, we then give others space to be imperfect.
Sure.
That's the thing. We become more tolerant of others, not just
Accepting.
ourselves. Yes, we can accept and we can observe and be, again, compassion. Your compassion then grows and you say, oh, I see you over there. You're hurting right now. And I love you. It's okay.
Right.
I have that too. And we share that. It's safe to be vulnerable. Let me let my guard down and my imperfections show. I'll show you my imperfections if you show me yours.
Right.
I mean, you know what I mean?
It's true. Oh, no, completely.
It's real.
And I feel like I wish more people could be that way. I understand why it's not easy. But God, I mean, this whole world would be a different place.
I struggled with that for most of my life until I had more awareness around the fact that, first of all, it's not real. You're not fooling anybody, first of all.
Sure.
And second of all, least of all, you're fooling yourself.
Of course.
So stop trying to fool yourself. You're playing games with yourself. Be real.
Of course.
Get real. Start with you.
Sure.
I mean,
and
get
isn't
honest.
It funny, those, I'm assuming we must think that helps us in a weird way, but it doesn't.
No.
It just solidifies weird thought processes that.
Well, it hinders us and holds us back.
Oh, it completely does.
Yeah.
But I mean, I would never have known had I not lived it.
Of course.
And
That's the
been
gift
on
in
all
it.
sides.
That's the gift in it.
And I'm older and learning this stuff. You know, I'm 60 in a couple of years.
Well, that's the thing that's so ironic about numbers in life and the age that we call ourselves. I mean, it's all relative.
Sure.
But really, when you think about it, it doesn't matter where you are or what phase of life you're on. You are where you are.
Right.
And whatever that looks like for you in that given time and space, let it be what it is.
Sure.
Either you're ready or you're not. And it's okay regardless of what that is.
course.
Allow yourself to have that. That was one of the conversations when my family member, I'm not going to mention who it is because it doesn't matter, but was saying, how do I get over this dread, right? And it was like, let yourself have the dread.
Sure.
Live in the dread. Because you know what? If you're denying yourself of whatever that thing, the adversity, the pain, the fear, the anger, what anxiety, name your emotion. When it comes in, let yourself have it.
Of course.
You need it.
Sure.
It's not a bad thing. You don't need to turn it away and reject it. Let it in. And the sooner you can let it in, the sooner it's going to leave.
Of course. Well, that's what I was going to say. It's not going to go anywhere by you pushing it down.
No.
It's going to get
It's going to
worse.
keep coming and coming harder and harder and harder until you let it in.
And it'll make you physically sick.
Absolutely.
I mean,
it does.
it totally, well, I mean, I look at it, I woke up sweating.
Right.
Do you know?
Well, something was probably starting to develop in you.
Of course.
Something in you said, no. I am not letting this crap take me down. I'm not doing this. And you chose you and said,
Sure.
No.
But it's amazing. I mean, I feel like it's so common that people don't. And I was raised to love myself. I mean, my parents really supported that. I mean, I came out when I was 13 and they, you know.
Always accepting.
Always.
That's such a blessing.
Oh, I mean, I know people who got thrown out of their house as kids.
I know. Talk about that a little bit because I think that's a really important point. And when you explained that to me when we first met, how powerful that was for you because, Adam, that made you who you are and gave you the confidence that you have today with who you are.
For sure.
And that's really powerful.
And that was a long time ago. I mean, being
That's what I'm
gay
saying. You were
was
young.
not like it is today.
No.
At all.
No.
Like, I think it was on the psychological books as being a mental disorder maybe 45 years before I came out. And then HIV hit, which pushed things way back. And to be a 13-year-old maneuvering through that and thank God I had the love of my parents. You know, my dad was a jock and none of it mattered. They loved me because they loved me.
Right.
And that was it.
Didn't matter.
Even my brother. Like I remember telling him I was maybe 15 and he was probably 13 at the time and him telling me or him saying why it doesn't matter. Like, what do you want me to tell my friends? It doesn't
it's like,
matter.
okay, thanks for letting me know. But
Right. And I
don't
was
care.
I mean, my whole family, everybody was just really, really kind. And for a lot of people, I was their first gay person.
Yeah. They had never even been around that, didn't understand it, but yet they still accepted it.
And it was
and
still
loved it anyway.
hard on me. I remember crying myself to sleep some nights and thinking, God, why'd you do this to me? Because I was too young to really fully understand all of that. There were no role models on TV. There was
You were really alone.
I was really alone.
And really young at a huge, vulnerable, transformational age. 13?
Sure.
I mean,
Sure.
wow.
I literally had my bar mitzvah in Israel, came out, came home and came out.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And your bar mitzvah is becoming a man.
Oh, yeah.
technically.
Yeah.
But it was, I can't imagine what it's like for people who didn't have the support like I had.
Oh, and I think that's way more common than what you got.
Oh, without question.
It's completely
I mean, there's
lot more.
people that's, are my age that aren't even out or got married to women and have kids and are living two different lives. And I can't imagine that kind of pain.
Well, did you listen? I had a gal on here who was on the podcast, and she talked about how her husband left her because he came out as gay, and it was shocking to her. It was painful on both sides because for lots of reasons. But like to your point, that person was so closed off to himself that he couldn't even stand up to what he was or how he felt or how he wanted to behave or whatever. Just being honest with himself, he couldn't do it for that long.
I mean, I can't even imagine that kind of self-loathing.
Denying yourself of your truth.
For sure.
That's so sad.
And
so
also,
sad.
while you're involving other people in that too. I mean, I just can't imagine the weight of all of that.
No.
That's heartbreaking to me.
Yeah.
I mean, I know people who have much later in life after getting married have come out on the other side, literally, because they were able to be honest with themselves and with their kids and their wife. And to have that kind of freedom is amazing, but I can't even fathom what it would be. I mean, I was so young, I never pretended to like girls. I never had a girlfriend or had to do any of that kind of stuff.
You were truthful from the very beginning to yourself and everyone else.
It wasn't an option for me.
That was brave, though, Adam.
I think I attribute it to my mom and to both my parents because they raised me to be true to myself. So it wasn't an option to be anything else.
Right.
And it was from such a young age they taught me that, so that I didn't have a choice. Like I remember coming out to my mom and saying, let's go to lunch. And she must have known because before we went to lunch, she was like, let's sit. There was like a bench in front of the restaurant outside. And she was like, so what do you want to tell me? And I couldn't say it. I had to write it down on a piece of paper.
Really?
Literally just wrote, I'm gay, and handed it to her. And she hugged me and told me she loved me. And she was like, did you think I was going to yell at you? And I was like, I didn't know.
That's such a real thing, though, with parents. I just had a conversation with my son last night, and we were having a real vulnerable conversation because I love my relationship with my kids. And we were talking about the things that drive us crazy about each other because we're human, and to be truly, to show somebody true love is to be honest.
Sure.
Even if you're afraid it's going to hurt them, with compassion and kindness, but being honest and real. And he asked me, is there anything that I do that really irks you or pisses you off or makes you like whatever? And I literally was like, I need to think about that. Because I usually, if I'm having an issue, I just kind of say it. I didn't have anything in the moment. And he said, well, do you want to know mine for you? And I said, yes. And he's like, I don't know if I can. And I said, well, of course you can. I want you to. I welcome that. I'm never going to reject feedback. I don't care who it's from.
Right.
I am not too proud for that. And so his was funny. No, I'm the only female in a household full of males, and they are very, very male, energetic beings.
Right.
And there's a lot of testosterone, a lot of competitiveness. It's very prominent in my house. And so I am truly the only female. And I'm outnumbered on a lot of fronts. Sure. I love every bit of it, but it's a real thing. So he said to me, sometimes you make drama out of something that really isn't real. And I said, hey, I totally get that. And you're right. To be honest with you, it's tough because I have hormones that I cannot control. And sometimes things come out and they seem silly and trivial to you, but they feel very real to me at the time. I can't control that that's how I'm feeling. It really just happens. Now, do I get over it quickly? He said, well, of course you do. And I said, well, of course I do. But it's a real thing.
Sure, of course.
And I said, I totally get it. And I said, I don't want you to ever be afraid to tell me something because I want that feedback. So I now have an awareness around it so I can be a little more sensitive to it for myself and in turn for you. Right. But being honest with your kids and your parents is, I wish that so bad for everyone, because if you can't be vulnerable and be honest with your closest allies in this life, oh my gosh. I felt like that with my parents. I felt like I could really honestly talk to them about anything. I was lucky. Super, super blessed that way.
Yeah. I don't think that's common.
I don't think so either. I agree with you. I think maybe it will get more common. I don't know. I hope it does. But
I think by you being that way with your kids, hopefully they're going to be that way with their kids, because all of these things are generational. Mm-hmm. And of course, it goes all back to fear.
Yep.
And maybe, I'm sure there's
And
people,
learn behaviors.
I was just going to say, I'm sure there's people who are fearful because they know what could be in store for them.
Right.
And that's so heartbreaking to me. Because I think that there's a lot of broken people out there. It didn't have to be that way. But their parents learned from their parents.
Right.
And
It carries on and on and on. The
Yes.
cycle continues.
Yes, completely.
Until someone decides to break the cycle.
Yeah.
That's how it is. And that is a generational thing. It's a societal thing. There's a lot of factors.
Sure, of course.
There's definitely, like you said, being a gay man in today's society looks completely different than it did when you came out. The landscape is completely, it's light years
wild.
different. Now it's like a whole nother level of wild.
It's funny because there was gay, straight, and bi.
Right. Now there's a lot of different things.
And I'm learning some of those things. And how amazing for all of these people that they can be so free and they can explore whatever they're thinking. And but to have come from such a different world, it was scary.
Yeah.
I remember living in Chicago. I was about 18 and I was walking down the street and people threw eggs at me and called me faggot. I was walking down the street. They didn't even know me.
Right.
Like, what?
Snap judgment and paint hurtful.
And hurtful and coming from their own whacked out
and you're
stuff.
too young. Now you've come a long way, so you can say that has nothing to do with me. But even still, when someone, again, we're not immune to pain and insult and injury. We're not.
And you're right. I was young. I personalized it.
Of course.
It hurt me. It scared me. There was so much stuff there.
Yeah.
That now I would never. I can't even think. I don't even know the last time anyone's ever even been that way.
Yeah.
And I would have thought for sure here it would have popped up.
Well, it's interesting to that point because Eric and I have talked about this a lot with our boys. And when you talk about any kind of judgment of something that's different from you,
Sure.
whether you're gay, whether you're a different colored skin, a different culture, whatever the thing is, the diversity, I should say, I guess. We've always said to our kids, when we go places and travel to different places and you're exposed to different things, what is the common denominator? And the answer is always people are kind and they're nice. And what you're hearing over the speaker, meaning social media, the television, the news, you name it, whatever's coming at you from a media perspective, is truly not what your experience is. So judge your experience on your experience. So if you're going out there and you're not seeing what it is that you're hearing out here, live through what your experience is. I'm not saying that those things don't happen. Of course they do. And you may have been blessed in not having seen that. But what really, at the end of the day, is your own experience around what you're seeing out there when you're faced with those things that are different from you?
Right.
Are you seeing judgment? Are you seeing pain? Are you seeing violence? Not necessarily in my experience. So I'm gonna go off of, it's kind of like the whole invent of AI. You can't believe what you see on a screen anymore.
Right.
You really can't, or what you hear even on a speaker anymore.
Yeah.
You have to make a face value judgment now. You can no longer trust what you're seeing that's not really right in front of you. And the truth is, you can only pick up real vibes that way anyway.
True.
When you're standing there with somebody, everything about them, their body language, the way they're looking at you, every piece of what they're giving off, you can read.
Of course.
Not just with their words.
No.
So when you're seeing that and you're around somebody, there's a big difference between that and what you're hearing somewhere else. You need to trust what you're feeling.
For sure. And your own experience.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's huge. There's nothing like that. That is your own barometer of what you know feels right.
But it's interesting to me how we have our preconceived notions, for me, of how I thought it was going to be. Couldn't have been more different.
Right.
Like completely different.
Because we make snap judgments.
Yeah.
We all do
Which
it.
was fear. I was fearful of being judged. I was fearful of whatever,
And it wasn't real.
No, not even close to it.
That's huge.
The way that this city has embraced me, and because of that, how I've thrived is why didn't I move here sooner?
Right.
Fear
stifled you.
It really did. And it's unbelievable when you take that out of the equation, it changes everything.
I know.
You can hear the birds singing. You can feel the sun shining. it changes the game.
Well, and you're taking things at real true face value.
Sure.
And you're not putting preconceived notions or prejudice or other voices or
Right.
outside energy on something that really isn't real for you anyway.
Right. And the real experience is beautiful
I know.
and energizing and like, wow. I mean, I'm going to leave here today and be high from, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm already, because I feel that way, because
Yeah.
that's my experience with you. Because of everything that we've been talking about, that's real with us.
Yes.
And
It's an energy.
it's a total energy. And it's a game changer. I mean, I wish more people could have those kind of experiences. And because that does take away the fear. Like, I've never, ever felt judged by you. And I know that I could tell you anything and you would be there to support me or talk me through it. Or, you know, we could have a conversation, even if I was just rebounding off you.
Right. Yeah.
That's a gift.
It is. It's well, and there's so much of that. There's so much of that in this world. It's hard to find the ones that are vibing the same vibe you're vibing.
Sure.
And when you find it, you're like, yes.
Yeah, completely.
Right?
Oh, absolutely.
You're like, yes. It's like, okay, yes, a magnet. We found each other.
Right.
It's really cool. And so that's why it's important for people when they find that in common with someone else and they really can just be truly who they are and feel safe in that regard.
Sure.
It's beautiful and it's a
And
gift.
nurture it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And care about it and let it be what it is. And the other stuff melts away. The stuff that doesn't matter melts away because it doesn't matter. And you know that right out of the gate.
Sure. Completely.
Yeah.
But I mean, everything we're talking about, like, it kind of comes with age and experience. I wish that I would have known all these things I know now.
You weren't ready.
Yeah, no, I wasn't ready. And it's kind of like when I thought I was speaking another language to other people, that would have been how it would have been with me.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Isn't it funny how it changes?
Yes. But I'm so grateful that it's changed and I'm where I'm at. And I only see beauty and it's just going to continue to get better and better. Like,
Yeah.
I just look at a year ago where both of us were. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What's it going to be like a year from now?
I know,
Like,
right?
I want to have this same conversation and be like, wow, do you remember that podcast?
Yes, exactly. And it'll look different because we'll have a new experience. We'll have new light to shed on
course.
everything we're feeling and experiencing and wanting to share. That's the thing that I love the most about what I'm doing right now is that the thing that makes me so happy, like you said, you'll be on this high. Every time I leave my podcast, I leave here on a huge high because I'm talking about really high vibrational, beautiful things that are very much in touch. And it's so real for me. I mean, it reminds me of, like, there's a scene I could place on a movie. It's Jerry Maguire when he's driving and he gets that client and he's singing Free Falling in the car. Like, that's the feeling I have when I leave this.
Oh, nice.
It's awesome.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
Like, it's awesome. It's like I get nervous, excited, like a happy excitement right before I come to do these conversations, have these conversations.
Cool.
And then when I leave, it's like, it just makes me shine. I just feel like I'm on fire.
That's such a lovely feeling.
It's
that, like,
so cool.
explosiveness inside.
Yes, I just feel like, oh my gosh, like I just feel like I'm walking on air. It makes me so, that's why I'm doing this, because it makes me feel good.
That's great.
That's it.
And I mean, the outcome of it is you're affecting a lot of people.
That's
you're
a side
touching a lot
effect
of
that I
people.
love. I love the
That's
side
the
effect.
bonus.
Yes, that's the bonus,
Completely.
because that's not the reason. That's the bonus. And I love that I'm doing it. And that's why I said, I need to do this, because I want to, I do. You naturally, when you get to this point of excitement and joy and peace, you want to share it.
Yeah.
You naturally want to share it. That's what happens.
Of course.
That's why you sit across the clerk and you say, hey, how's your day going?
Right.
You want to share your joy.
It's such a nice thing.
I know. And, you know, so many times I say, I wish I could put words to the feelings, because it's really impossible to convey the real feeling behind it. It's so hard to describe.
I call it volts
Volts.
because that's what I feel.
love that. Yes.
And it's interesting.
Volts.
I
That's good.
used to, when I was younger, equate volts with meeting someone that I liked, like on a dating kind of level. Like they gave me like
Volts.
butterflies or
Yeah.
volts.
That's cool.
But now as I've gotten older and I've realized like every time I've ever left you, I feel those volts. I feel just energized, and I feel it through my whole body.
Yeah.
And it's just like I'm amped.
Yeah. Amped.
So
That's a good volts. That's a good.
That's my word.
That's a really, because you feel charged.
Yeah.
You feel
Completely.
charged. That's I like that, because that totally resonates and describes it in a way that you're right. It's a feeling of you feel charged.
And it's a natural, like, who needs drugs?
Right.
Who needs to do anything like that? It's something that's in us.
Yes.
That's real.
We can naturally tap into it.
Yes.
I
And it's
know.
amazing. I mean, it's better than anything I've ever done. Because it's just so raw and real. I mean,
Yeah.
there's so much beauty that comes from being vulnerable, being open, being honest, being raw.
Yeah.
And it's just, I don't know.
Well, those volts and that charge make you feel really alive.
For sure.
You feel really
Completely.
alive.
Yeah.
Like it's like your light has been switched on.
So interesting. There's a lot of different things that give me that. Like, I could spend a whole day like working with clients or sourcing, and I'm pumped after the day. Like, I'm not wiped out. I'm like so charged and full of volts. And it's like, wow, this feels good.
Yeah.
And we can get that from so many different things in life, whether it's, workout or working with clients or whatever the case may be,
Right. Yeah.
or just seeing like a gorgeous sunset.
Oh, yes.
To be able to pay attention and notice and feel those things.
It's when you're aware of it and you recognize it, then it comes more and more and more.
Yeah.
It's like it just ignites everything for you.
Yeah.
It lights the path.
Yeah, it does.
It's like it lights the
really
path
does.
for more. And you're just like, oh my, you got to, my mom and I were talking about this the other day. It's so cool because when you can see, and I talked about this on a podcast I did recently about how as soon as you see the sign, like all the stuff, like all the signs, and you're like the synchronicities and it's like, it's mind blow. It makes your heart want to explode.
Sure.
It's so real and so powerful, and it breathes more.
Totally. Because it's everywhere when you pay attention.
Exactly. When you're paying attention, and you can't always pay attention because we walk and we do our things.
Sure.
But when you can, the more open you are to like receiving it, and you're like, I'm receptive right now, and you see every little thing.
Right.
It's crazy how much it is.
Sure.
I mean, it's everywhere all the time.
Everywhere.
All the time.
I'm sure when your kids were little and like you walked by and saw them like as babies, you were like, oh, right?
Yeah.
Like even those kind of things. It's everywhere when you pay attention.
It's pretty cool. Like
It's
you said, it's
amazing.
better than any drug.
Yeah.
It's the ultimate drug.
It really is.
It makes you feel really alive.
alive and grateful, and what an amazing thing to experience.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it makes life so much better and happier, and what an amazing experience.
And worth having.
I was just going to say worth living, but living the same thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know it is. It makes you feel really grateful and grateful. There's no better feeling than gratitude. It's powerful. It lights you up.
Oh, and I mean, we're human. We have those days. Now, when I have those days, though, I can pull from the memory bank, like remember this and the things that I am grateful for, and I'm so resilient because of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like it literally, I don't stew. I don't get caught up or bogged down anymore
Yeah.
because I can pull that out.
Well, don't you think it's funny? This happens to me a lot, and I know it happens for most people. You'll hear a song, and the song will instantly trigger a memory that you love, and it instantly lifts your mood.
Sure.
Instantly. All of a sudden, you're there, and you're like, it puts you right back to where you just know you were experiencing overwhelming joy.
Of course.
And you're like, and not even that you're reliving the experience or like dwelling on the moment that happened. It's a feeling.
For sure.
All of a sudden that feeling waves into you and you're like, oh, it's like, it's the coolest thing.
Yeah.
It's
and
the
it could have
coolest
been
thing.
from a zillion years ago.
Oh, it could have been when you were itty bitty. It could even be something you don't even know why you remember it or why it's triggering that emotion in you.
Right.
A song that you don't even know why it's making you feel that way,
funny?
but it's making you feel that way.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Signs are all over when you pay attention.
Well, it's funny. I get a lot of signs with music. All of a sudden a song will come on and I'll go, oh, thank you.
I love
yes.
that.
I'm like, yes,
That's
you
funny.
nailed it. That was it. And it's like for whatever the thing is at the moment, it's like, yes, that's it. That's it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Can be amazing
I know. I love it.
and really can transport you.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
it's funny, like there's things I might not even remember what I did last week, but I remember all the words to a song I knew in high school.
Right. Isn't it funny
Yeah,
how we can memorize that stuff?
totally.
Yeah.
And still go right back
Oh
to
yeah,
it.
exactly. That's really funny you say that because that's true. We have such memory of certain things that really it's just immediate. It's like it's like it's engraved in your brain.
Tangible.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Funny.
Well, I could talk to you all day,
I know.
and I know we'll continue talking off camera. But I do want you to talk about where people can reach you because your design work and your creative love and colorful vibes and things that you do in this world are just awesome. And I love it when you share like little thing. You'll send a text or I'll see something you've posted of something that you just did or created or produced. And it's like the joy around when you do that. It's so clear that you are just so in love with what you're doing. And it really conveys in your work. You do such amazing things. So how can people find your amazing skills and the beauty that you share in your design work?
So Instagram, Adam P Schiff, and my website, adampschiff.com.
Okay. That's the best way to find you.
Yeah.
So if anybody out there is looking to really amp up their space, whether it's their living space or wherever it is, and they want some serious, really amazing, beautiful design work that's colorful and vibes, this is your guy. He is your guy. It's incredible. So
Bringing color to the desert, color and joy.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having
you know
me.
I love you to pieces, and you really hold a special place in my heart. So I'm really happy that you were able to be with me today.
Thank you. You know, I feel the same.
Thank all of you for joining us today. I hope that you got a lot out of this conversation. I certainly did. I just get very happy when I talk to this guy. So I'm glad you were able to listen in. And if you want further information, be sure that you subscribe. We are on YouTube, so you can subscribe to the channel to receive these messages and podcasts whenever you want them. They come out every Tuesday, as well as on social media. You can find us at Tammy Tuesday Life or my website, TammyTuesday.com. Always leaving you with lots of love and light. And remember, life, love, and purpose, it all begins with you. Peace out.